Here he is. Oh, the red light, man. Man, sorry I gave you a hard time connecting. I had to send you the
Problem.
invitation. Maxime, it's
Yes.
8 p.m.
What are you doing,
in
my friend?
Berlin. Bro, I am having the time of my life, obviously, because I'm in the tropics and it's sunny. Not like, well, actually, it's pretty sunny. It has been pretty sunny in Germany. I'm pretty actually pissed at the fact that it was so freaking rainy before I came here,
Yeah.
and now I'm here and it's sunny there. But
Oh,
I
exactly. It's the weather is pretty. It's yeah, it's quite nice. It's been very nice the past few days. I've been enjoying the weather here a lot, and it's still quite cold. So because it's not summer yet, there's no like vitamin D going on and all that stuff, as you know. But it's still nice to be in the sun and it feels pretty warm. So I really enjoy going outside
of
the
course.
past few days. I've been enjoying
So
that.
my team is a biohacker, a medical.
Let
Um,
me let me let me comment on that. I actually you're more familiar with Brian Sanders' Food Lies, and I'm on board with his point of view on the word biohacking because I'm kind of opposed to that word since we're not really hacking our biology, we're rediscovering the way we should function. So he coins the term ancestral hacking, and I completely agree with that. So I would rather prefer using ancestral hacking as opposed to biohacking, but that's kind of just a side comment.
I'm not against the ancestral word, not at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, we I don't know how did we meet here in through social media through Instagram, um, but I'm glad we did because my people here don't know. So you're a med school student, and I myself
Exactly.
also was a couple of years ago. Back in the days where nothing of this was happening. So I met Maxine, and I'm like, bro, this is happening, and you're a med student from this generation when we're finally talking about the whole cholesterol scam and the whole
Oh yeah.
saturated fats are no longer bad, and like, so I was really curious to know, and you explained to me, but I want you to explain people,
Mm.
what stand are they taking in medicine nowadays? Is it changing, or is it just the same thing, and then we must do something here with people? So just give
Yeah.
us an insight. What's happening in your life regarding your medical studies, and then you can talk about yourself and introduce yourself.
Well, to your question, it's been actually pretty funny to see that Germany and the medical system here, or the ideologies that's currently most popular, if you will. So like the veganism thingy, all that. This is currently gaining traction here in Germany, more and more. So
The
people are really getting
sorry,
crazy
sorry,
about it.
sorry. The veganism thingy. That's what he said. In case those of you did not understand, so the veganism thingy is is a nightmare because, see, in developed countries, I'm here. People have to
Yeah.
survive, and they
Yes.
cherish any piece of meat that they can put on their
And
plates.
animal food. Exactly.
Yeah, and in Germany, obviously, if someone goes bankrupt or doesn't have any money, they will always get financial aid from the government. So they don't live in this state of stress, and they think
Mm.
they can just be so progressive and experimental and try the veganism thingy because, I mean, yeah, Germans like to be like leaders and share the
Exactly.
knowledge, and there's lots of,
Veganism is a luxury of the West. It's
I don't
it's
know,
something
it's
that they
also
only
because, I
can.
mean, sorry to
Mm?
interrupt you, but the Germans, just to
Go
put
ahead.
things on context, they negotiate very well, and like they buy foods from every part of the world and they import everything. We can find
Mhm.
everything in Germany, so it's very easy to be a vegan because you can find quinoa and sesame seeds and goji berries, and then you
Yes.
might get away with it much better there in Berlin and in Germany because of that. But otherwise, you would be completely fucked if you would try to be a vegan in other countries because it would be just like fruit and what I mean, you would have to have access to marine products such as algae,
Yes, yes, exactly.
and I don't know. I mean, well, that's not vegan. That comes from, oh shit, it gets so fucking complicated. Anyways, the vegan thingy, it's a thing there where we live in Germany, and it's our primary nightmare, and that's what we're battling it with, because people are getting deficient, and like, so Germans are getting lazier because they're eating more carbs than ever, because veganism or vegetarian diets are basically high
Yeah.
carb diets. And then if they eat falafel and they don't know that these oils where they fry their falafel is just, there are pure inflammatory oils, then
Mhm.
they will get sick. So not only like, anyways, keep on.
Well, yeah, yeah. To continue on the point I was trying to make is basically, well, you actually made a good point there, that we in the Western societies, especially here in Europe and Germany, we can afford to be vegan, and that's not the case in other countries. As it is the case here in Germany. So we have access to all kinds of foods, and that's the only thing that allows people to actually become vegans in the first place. Because if you just think back for a second, what the people would have eaten locally and regionally and seasonally, like there, you would never find an abundance of plant foods wherever you currently are if you just go from a local standpoint. There is like not much that's growing around. Maybe in the tropicals you have a bunch of fruit, but that's about it. And especially in Europe and in colder regions, there's like no plant foods growing. So you would have a really hard time finding stuff to eat if you want to be vegan. But okay, about the medical system, the problem that or the funny thing that I was observing here basically is that they are repeating the stuff that USA or that in America actually already happened many years ago. So they're currently now, going on that vegan trip, and vegetarianism cult is, starting to prevail. Because right now in America, like, that's still a thing, that's still going on. But I feel like the anti-vegan movement, if you want, or I don't want to necessarily feel or make the impression that I'm part of a specific camp or ideology, but those guys that are more critical of the ideology behind veganism and think that animal foods are or carry some value and benefit with them. So maybe that's us, for example. Those guys are much more numerous in America, because in Germany I haven't found them yet. That's not something that is being talked about at all, especially in medical school. So
So
the
nothing's
things are all.
changed then. I mean,
Sorry?
nothing has really changed. Like can you talk about meat and carnivore diets and keto diets with your fellow classmates, medical students?
Oh no, I can't. That'll be too dangerous, I think. It's funny because they say it here and there that animal foods are nutritious. If we had a lecture about like vitamins and minerals and where they're most abundantly found in, and it's been like, okay, so we have all these nutrients, and yes, they are way more abundant in animal foods and way more bioavailable in animal foods. But that was a side note. That wasn't the most important message of the whole lecture. It was like, yeah, but you could eat a bunch of plants and combine them in a way to make it more absorbable, and then you'd be fine. So you don't need to eat any dairy or like meat to get iron or calcium. That's not you don't have to do that at all. You can just eat a bunch of spinach and add vitamin C, and it will make the iron more absorbable and whatnot. And so that'll be fine. So the message is always turned around in a way, and that's a funny thing about ideological thinking, by the way, that these people are able to take any argument that is being construed against them and twist it around so that it supports their ideology.
Yeah,
That's pretty scary.
yeah, it's great. It's scary. That's what's happening
Yeah.
in all arenas. So,
Mhm.
like, I don't know. It's just like, it's mind-boggling, because when is it gonna change? What does it take for us to just shift the ideology? Obviously, we have seen in history that it's tough to change paradigm, but
Yeah.
what is the whole storm and what's gonna come, what's coming ahead of. I mean, the world is not coming to an end. We are not overpopulated. Climate change, okay, it won't happen, let's say, in the next 10 years. So we do have time. So what would it take? What does it take to change the mindset of people? Or do we have to wait till they get sick from veganism and just extremely bloated from eating plants and polyols and fermentable fibers until they realize, shit, I haven't been this gassy in my life. I want to try meat again.
Good question, man. Very good question. And I don't have a clear answer to that, but I think there are several things to say there. So first of all, I think talking to people is a very important thing. So having conversations, I think, is what drives change by definition, by the way. So if you have an idea, a novel idea, then by definition, it's going to be held by a minority at first, because otherwise it wouldn't be new, obviously. Although we could argue that this idea isn't new at all. It hasn't been the case for millions of years, and then suddenly a few stupid events happened, and then suddenly we had that dramatic shift towards, all this nonsense that's going on currently in the nutritional space. And so it's not really a new idea at all, I believe. It's just rediscovering what has been the case forever before, But the question is, how do we do it exactly? And I think having conversations is a very crucial piece of that equation. So that's the reason why I decided to talk to people on my podcast. That's the reason why I'm talking to you right now. That's the reason why I post stuff on Instagram and engage in dialogue. And I actively want or try to talk to people, especially if they think differently. I think that's of utmost importance, to try to just talk to people, even or especially if they hold a different viewpoint. And it's very pitiful to watch if people just or if like fellow medical students. I've heard it from a good friend. He told me once that he was talking to fellow medical students, and they found my Instagram account, and they were just like straw manning everything that I possibly stated once in a way that didn't at all reflect what I was thinking, which was a pity, because that means they just ran away from conversations and discussions to have with me, because they'd be like, oh yeah, he's an anti-vaxxer and a radical conspiracy theorist who believes that meat heals COVID. I'm like, wow, that's ridiculous. How could you believe, that I said anything like that, and from the post that I made, basically, right? And by that, they shifted away and ran away from the opportunity to just ask me questions and find out if I'm really thinking this way or that way. And so it's difficult. That's a very difficult thing to talk to people, but I think that's a very important one. Because only and I'm telling you why I find that to be one of the most important things. Because if you talk to a few people, and you influence the way these people think, then these people will change in the way that they are viewing the world, and that will start to expand, because these people will now talk to other folks and try to, I don't know, convince them or change the way they view the world. And so if you reach 100 or 200 or 1,000 people, and each of those reaches another 100 people, very quickly we will arrive at changing millions of lives. Not directly, but by simply talking to individuals.
I mean, I like to talk to audiences, because I feel that way I accelerate the process, and sometimes I like to think that I'm wrong. I like to think that I can actually take my time, talk to individuals, and the process will keep just multiplying or exponentially happening. Yeah, but I mean, I have a 9-to-5 job at a clinic, and I talk to patients 1-to-1, 20 minutes, and that's it. And sometimes I get just one chance to say something, like 20 minutes, and that's it. And I have to make sure that I deliver that information and I change their I mean, modesty aside, but it's really, it really takes 15 minutes. That's what I proved. It really takes 15 minutes. It depends on how, obviously, if you have agility at explaining this subject, and to be able to explain to people that cholesterol is not the enemy and saturated fat
Oh man.
ad libitum, and that vegetable oils are bad, and that your carbohydrate intake or the frequency in which you eat carbs has to be reduced or negotiated according to how much exercise you do and stuff, because
Exactly.
you don't
Yes.
want insulin in your blood permanently the 24 hours. You have to be able to be very, very incisive and just like show graphics, and that's what I do with my
And efficient.
patients. Yeah. So if you would explain things to people, if you would have 15 minutes to change their perspective, what would you use as your what tool would you use? Like, would you use a PowerPoint presentation, or would you just deliver this great Jordan B. Peterson style speech, or what would you do? A game? Like, really, we have to talk about this stuff, because I'm trying to work with kids and parents, and I'm trying to deliver the information, and I need like ideas, because everything works.
Man. So that's unbelievably difficult, because I honestly cannot believe that you can influence the person. Oh, not influence, but have such a big impact in terms of doctor to patient relationship on a patient in such a short period of time. So 15 minutes, I think, is not enough. And I really hope, so I'll get back to the question what I would do in these 50 minutes, but I really hope that later, when I have a practice and I'll be talking to patients, that I'll have more than 15 minutes per patient, because I believe in that it's in the importance of understanding where the patient is coming from, because most patients, or most people that are sick, they became sick for a variety of different reasons, and many of them are psychological, I believe. And so in order to figure that out, it takes way more than 15 minutes and way more than one session, I believe. And so that's why that's kind of difficult to say what I would do in these 15 minutes.
It wasn't a tricky question. I mean, you've touched my heart with what you've just said, because when I have private consultations, obviously I take 2 hours, and those 15 minutes are the first round of sessions. Actually, the government in Germany pays for, it's a 8-session program for diabetics that they come every 2 weeks. But sometimes, if they don't like the information that they're getting, because I'm suddenly saying that they should eat organ meats, they should eat meat and eggs and cholesterol-rich foods, sometimes they cannot take it. They don't tolerate my advice, because know it's totally the opposite of their worldview, so they run away. And then my boss comes in and said, "Oops, you did it again." So, and actually, he did tell me that a couple of times. I know what I mean. He has to have patience, because it's a business. It's a Betrieb. Yeah. So, and actually, that's his word.
Exactly.
It's hard. How do you say Betrieb? It's it's a.
Let me. The word just popped up, and
so it basically sounds like this is like a money machine. So we have to have patience in order for the government to pay.
Enterprise, isn't it enterprise?
Is that what? Enterprise. Yeah.
Enterprise.
Yeah. Anyways, but the connotation in Germany is like very rough when you say that a clinic is an enterprise. So yes, it's. So we basically, and yes, I earn my living from disease, not from disease prevention, because I take my diabetic patients off insulin, off meds, and they don't come anymore because they don't need my service anymore. But
that's a very important thing to mention, and I think that's why I find preventative medicine so attractive, because you will never ever run out of patients. Even if everyone is healthy, you will help people to stay healthy, and you will basically healthy as opposed to earning your money from sick people. So that would basically, the more sick people there are, the more benefit you get and the more money you will earn. And I think that's a very unsustainable proposition, because that means that we would desire a society in which most of the people become sick and stay sick for as long as possible, but not die all the time, because if all people die because they are sick, society will not function anymore. So they have to stay sick and survive for as long as possible, but at the same time keep all these symptoms and just keep functioning borderline, not optimal, but borderline, so that they just can survive and do their job.
I mean, I'm so behind the curtain, I'm thinking of how eloquent you are and how bright, and it's unbelievable that you live in such a big city, in the biggest city of the richest capital in Europe, and you're completely alone, and you're studying the biggest medicine faculty, and you're completely alone in this. It's like, man, what can we do to help you? We gotta take you to.
You mean alone? You mean alone because there's no one in medical school who shares my viewpoints?
Yeah, I mean they could.
Okay.
They could share like a little bit of
let me comment real quick.
But it's about the big picture, you know.
Talked to enough medical students yet, because like the first 3 semesters were mostly online, so I haven't really, you know, been in touch with many medical students. But I have a few good friends who were also big supporters of the way I was looking at the, you know, pandemic situation that was going on for the past 2 years. And so we have been in good exchange over the course of medical school. So they're also fellow medical students and very good friends of mine. And they are, because they were so open to critical thinking and skepticism in this regard, they were just as open to listen to my crazy ramblings about all these health conspiracy theories. Oh, let's call them different. About actually, you know, the things that I are also skeptical about in the nutritional space. And they were willing to
dissonance.
Sorry?
Or like the plural of dissonance would be dissonances. Yeah.
Well, I'm not quite sure.
It's a cognitive dissonance. It's like the fact that even doctors know that cholesterol is not that bad. Well, that's not a good one. Even the fact that doctors, some traditional Orthodox doctors, know that saturated fats will actually not elevate the bad cholesterol, the bad. Nonetheless, they will do what they're told to do and tell the patients that saturated fats are bad. So that's cognitive dissonance. That's really just like negation.
Oh man, yeah, there's so many cognitive dissonances. There are just way too many of them, especially in the whole cholesterol space. So you just, you know, there have been so many meta-analyses. Okay, and let me, you know, the problem that I have with saturated fat and cholesterol, and that I have had from the very beginning, is just looking at the hazard ratios. You can already see that this, if it is contributing in a way, then this is never ever can be considered to be the driving cause or the main cause of any sort. Because let's take smoking as an example. Like, I really like looking at that example, because here we know the cause, and we basically know the mechanisms through which smoking causes lung cancer. And the hazard ratios are off the charts. They're like 30x. So it's not 1 point something, you know, like meat causes cancer and the hazard ratios is like 1.12 or so. That's nothing. That's really nothing. That doesn't tell you anything, especially in epidemiology. But epidemiology, if you have epidemiological studies with smoking and lung cancer and the hazard ratios are like 30x, that tells you that the correlation is so ridiculously huge that there must be a causal relationship. So, and now if we have a look at saturated fat and heart disease or all-cause mortality, they were enough meta-analyses which didn't show any association. Some showed like a slight positive association, which can probably be attributed to health user bias and all these things that we know about. And so just looking at that, you can make the conclusion that it can be and that drives atherosclerosis. On this thing, on that presumption, on this line of thinking, is basically based the entire LDL lipid heart hypothesis, you know? But if we actually look at the endpoints and saturated fat doesn't kill people, it doesn't result in more death, then something is wrong about the model. And I think this is how science should work. You take pieces, no, you make an observation. Okay, first of all, you make an observation, then you try to explain it by, means of creating a model. And then you come up with a model. And then either the model works, and oftentimes it works in the beginning, and it is able to explain something, and maybe it even makes sense. You could say, okay, if I go outside, the whole thing in front of me looks flat, so that means the Earth is flat. Pretty simple, makes sense, explains many things. What if we, and then you need to ask, and that's what scientists do. They try to refuse their hypothesis. They ask themselves, is there anything that would disprove my hypothesis? And if there is, then we have several possibilities. We can completely change the model. We can modify it. We can expand it, but we have to do something with the model. We can just keep it and try to pretend that it's still correct if it's clearly not.
So basically, Maxime is saying that behind those claims of, according to a new study, or scientists have found, there is a way of producing these claims that is completely just, it's biased, it's full of, they have conflicts of interest. It's full of shit. It's a pile of shit,
yes.
One on top of the other. So that's not going to change. Actually, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So basically, I'm betting on education, medical education, but an independent kind of education, and that's what I was talking to you the other day that we should do. We should just get the information across in a very but the information has to be fun. It has to generate a sense of wonder, especially in kids, and it has to have.
But you know what it also has to be. It has to be conveyed in a way that shows the people that we don't want to impose any opinion on them, but we're just about seeking and finding out the truth. So taking Joe Rogan as an example, he doesn't try to prove anything. He just talks to people, and he's more popular than CNN by 10x or so. So people watch to him and get the news from Joe Rogan, and he's just talking. He's just trying to find out what's true and what's not.
And he's
genuinely,
You really like okay. And actually, the reason that we're talking, you and me here, is not for people to see us. It's just that obviously we want to inform people, but we're actually just having a conversation.
Obviously.
It has been quite couple of weeks since we talked, and I wanted to do a follow-up on you to see how are things, and obviously we will be meeting in Berlin, and we will get more formal and official, or we will get more Joe Rogan and be doing a podcast soon, and then we will really be doing awesome shit, putting the information, because this is just you're just people right now are just hearing us blah 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 regarding our kind of frustration. Well, at least I am a little bit frustrated with the medical system.
I agree. I completely agree.
So I mean, I'm sorry we're venting here our our problems, but we have had problems as back in the days in med school, and you do encounter lots of difficulties because you feel very impotent, and people die because of this. It's not like we're just.
That's exactly that.
People die.
That's the reason. That's the reason why I'm so concerned about it.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I'm so concerned about it, because I see that people suffer. They suffer and they get sick and they get less healthy and don't thrive and are not living the most optimal life possible when they are not doing the things that they could do, but they're actually giving the opposite advice. And so, if someone asks me, for example, I've been doing an insane and a ridiculously stupid deep dive into the whole cholesterol and heart disease thing. So I've been reading so much about it, and I've been doing a deep dive into the exact mechanism. I was trying to find that out. What is going on with atherosclerosis? Because there are just too many things that don't make sense to me. And if something doesn't make sense to me, it drives me nuts, completely nuts. And I will not let go of that thing until I finally understand what's going on. And that's a good thing. That is obviously connected or comes along with certain moments of frustration, as you said, because oftentimes you see that things, sometimes seem to, the more at first, the more you learn, the less you seem to understand actually, and your relative knowledge drops because you see how much is out there that you don't know yet, and you'd be like, holy shit, I thought I knew something, but now I see I actually know nothing. So you believe that you got worse, your progress declined, but then suddenly, if you connect certain dots and things start to make sense, it becomes very satisfying. So and the reason why I've been actually so obsessed with that whole topic is because I wanted to understand how things actually work, to be able to give better advice to people, because only if I understand how the body works, I can give optimal advice based on this knowledge. Only then I can give advice. I can't just say, eat that, without actually knowing what it's doing to the body, or do this kind of thing without knowing what it's doing to the body. I can obviously apply some common sense and thinking, okay, what could be right, what seems right, but only because things seem right. I think that's it oftentimes is a logical fallacy that you believe things seem to make sense, and that's the reason why they have to make sense. Oftentimes it is the case. It doesn't have to be always. But yeah, I absolutely share your feeling of frustration. So it's
Yeah, so
but it is something. It is something that should drive us forward, and not make us sit in the corner and cry about life.
Definitely, like self-experimentation is the number one thing.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's research is amazing when you apply that to your own life and you become your own laboratory. And so, what do you eat? That's like, to wrap things up for today. Now, like, are you changing habits? Are you feeling certain cravings now that spring will come, or are you planning to change your diet a little bit into what arena, or like foods?
Yeah, so with diet, it's a very interesting thing, because so let me say one thing first. First of all, I'm very young, and that means that I tolerate everything basically, and I don't feel that much of a difference if I switch up my diet. So that's what I have to get out there first, because that's an important thing probably to mention, because it's not like
Good
I've been
point.
eating shit and suddenly I ate lots of meat and suddenly I feel amazing. I don't have this story, okay? I don't have that story, because I think young bodies are basically able to tolerate everything. And that's why I have so many good friends which eat, they eat crap every single day in big amounts. They're actually, well, acquaintances, maybe not necessarily friends, but just people I know who eat shit and crap. And they seem to be fine, and they are
I
sleeping not
know,
much,
yeah.
and they keep working and everything. So I think young bodies are able to handle a lot. But for me personally,
Drinking and smoking and
yeah,
everything. Yeah,
everything you can think of, and alcohol every day in too ridiculous amounts. So crazy stuff. I have skipped that period. That's funny. I've never had this period where I was going nuts about like partying and drinking and doing shit. Never had that. That's funny.
well, you are kind of addicted to the endorphins from
Oh,
exercise.
exactly.
So
I have different addictions. I have completely different addictions, which is probably, hopefully, a positive thing. I'm addicted to like absorbing knowledge at a staggeringly ridiculous rate. I get endorphins from that, from listening to Jordan Peterson.
that's
you know?
that's really you get high from listening to
Yeah,
Jordan. Actually, you do get high from listening to him.
kind of. Yeah, kind of. I have these moments. But okay, getting back to diet. Sorry, go ahead.
No, like Jordan Peterson with a little bit of background music, like a nice track, like chill out music with Jordan Peterson. That's like Alan Watts. That's awesome. So
Sorry,
what
man.
are you eating?
I've lost the connection for a second. Could you repeat your last sentence?
So let's get back to your diet.
Oh yeah, exactly what I'm eating. So my diet. So basically, I'm not trying to exclude any specific foods just for social reasons because my family eats everything, and of course I try to tell them what's maybe more optimal and what the focus should be. But I have figured out two rules that I find to be the most important ones. And if people ask me what they should eat, I always tell them these two rules. And I think these are the two most important ones. So first is get rid of as much processed food as possible. And so that again doesn't mean that you are never allowed to eat any kind of processed piece of food. It just means that if you can avoid it, just avoid it. And processed food means processed processed sugar, refined white flour, and vegetable oils. Everything that contains that belongs in the dustbin. Pretty simple. And so the second rule is focus the diet or include a good amount of high quality animal protein and animal foods, animal fats, animal foods, just something from an animal source. Now the amount of animal foods will differ among people, I believe. But I think that definitely has to be part of the diet, of a good diet. I like to focus my diet more on animal foods because I find them way more delicious and appealing and tasteful and just more satisfying than a piece of leafy whatever, broccoli or something like spinach. So I've lost, not necessarily that I've lost the taste for that, but I'm not craving this at all. Like never. I'm never thinking of leaves. Why should I? You know, when I'm hungry, I'm be like, oh, like a piece of steak with like 3 eggs or something, that'd be nice now. I'm not thinking about a piece of broccoli and a good, you know, piece of salad. That would be nice now. No, I'm never having these thoughts. So yeah, so my diet is
Ja,
basically
off,
mostly
yeah.
focused around these two rules: minimizing processed food consumption and having a great focus on animal nutrition and just eating plant foods around them as liberally as I feel, you know. So
It's awesome, man. The fact that you're young and you can afford to eat everything, but you don't because you don't crave those foods. Um,
no,
I'm,
I don't. Yeah.
I'm walking to the fireplace because I'm having an activity with people uh, tonight, and I want to show you what I'm gonna do. Anyway,
That's
so you're eating basically the same. You haven't changed much. Your steak and eggs, and
I have changed a bit over the past few years because of my journey basically. So when I started diving into this whole health and nutrition space, obviously first I was confronted with this whole plant-based nonsense. And I've never been anything, by the way. I've never been fully like ketogenic or carnivore or vegan or vegetarian. I've been always eating everything, but switching up the amounts of foods. You're still there?
are you there? Yeah.
You hearing
You there?
me again? Yeah, the
Yeah,
connection is off a bit.
no, I'm like close to the mountain, and I don't know. I guess that's the reason why. So
Okay. So, but
dry season in the coast. It's not rainy season.
Mhm.
That's why it looks so pale and
Let's see.
green. So we're digging a hole because we're making a hangi, and that's the word. That's Maori word. The Maoris from New Zealand, the Maori tribe, for a
Mhm.
hole that they dig, and they burn some wood there, and they put some rocks, and the rocks will then make the give the heat. So this is basically an
Mhm.
earth oven. That's the translation.
Oh,
So
that's
I'm making,
fascinating.
and yeah, I'm wrapping a couple of cuts in banana leaves, and then once the rocks
Mhm.
are hot enough, then I'll put it there, the leaves, everything wrapped in leaves, and I will put back what the ¿Dónde está la arena que sacaste? Tenemos que tapar el hueco. The sand goes back in. so it gets covered again, and then we leave it like that the whole night. So this will be the fireplace for tonight, and I'm having some people over because I'm doing a cooking course, and then
Wow.
we will cook with the fire, and then I will put some cuts of meat for the next day because tomorrow I'm having another group of people. So we will be
That's so
cooking
awesome.
fire today, and then the people that come tomorrow will be digging what we put, what we covered today. So I'm doing that. Anyways, so it's just like the traditional,
That's so
ancestral.
cool, by the way. That's so beautiful. Like, it's so sad that we've lost all that, sense and meaning for traditional ways of I don't know, of preparing food and also processing food, like all these traditional fermentation methods
Yeah.
where there's so much stuff which I can't list anything because I don't know that, unfortunately, because this isn't taught. This isn't taught anymore, like, because I'm not living on a farm or something like that.
Oh.
It's pretty sad, and it's a dream of mine to, like, at one point travel around a bit and see what indigenous tribes and traditional societies do, to just learn how they were living and how our ancestors were living. I find that so fascinating, and all the episodes and podcast episodes from all these folks, Food Lies, also Mary Ruddick and Paul Saladino, how they visited all these tribes, and I'm completely, like, fascinated by this idea, and I
Well,
just I just I just like thinking about it.
you have a garden, so you have to just like dig a hole and get some rocks, and that's it. I mean, just I everything that I've learned, and every like ancestral ways, I've learned it from YouTube. So I go and just like earth melt
Nice.
out. I don't know how I landed in, well, just because obviously where I live here, where I lived in
Yeah,
Colombia, we have a big space. So I'm like, what can I do
sure.
with, like, I want to do a fire. So for my 30th birthday, I think, or 32nd birthday, I did this because I wanted to cook like a whole pig, and I said I cannot cook it in the oven, so I have to use the fireplace, but I don't want to cause a forest
Yes,
fire because, as you can see,
it's
so I
pretty dry.
cook it. So you just follow the thread and don't have limits, like not having limits, really being limitless. In when you take when
Sure.
you have an idea, that's the only way that things can, like, yeah, generate.
Oh,
And
absolutely, man. Absolutely. Not being myopically hyper focused on one specific thing, but, like, open yourself up to know to a limitless amount of different opportunities that might pop up, and you just grab whatever currently seems to be the most useful thing that might help you to progress in whatever direction you're going. And just what I wanted to say about the tradition thing, I think it will be still a completely mind-bogglingly, like, different experience if you actually spend some time with a tribe and, like, do all these things and see how they do them. I just, maybe that will happen one day.
you're invited. I mean, in Colombia we have tribes, and
Awesome.
we have native people. So you'll be very happy to come here. We'll
Oh
definitely.
man, absolutely. I'd love to. I absolutely love to, especially if I know that there is someone I know, because just going there without having anyone that I can refer to would be a bit weird. But if there's, like, you, and I just have someone that I can speak to and who can show me stuff, I think that'd be a very nice thing.
No, and the nice thing is to bring the tribe to the people, because once you discover things, although you haven't, like, been on a tribe, then okay, if I want to be with a tribe, why do I want to be with a tribe? Because I want to gather. Why do I want to gather? Well, for humane reasons, obviously. So how do I gather? Well, and how do I feel like tribal and ancestral? Can I do that or here in the city? Yes, of course you can. You just have to
Oh yeah, sure you can.
hang out with the right kind of people that think like a tribe, that aren't
Yes, man.
less and
100%.
stuff. So maybe those kind of people we gotta meet, definitely. Like, I'm coming back to Hamburg, and a project in Hamburg and in Berlin would be like, who are the real people here? Like, I really want to make a tribe, and then I won't have to go to Africa to see how
I
people
see.
think and live, because I have people in Hamburg actually that have such a nice mindset and mentality. Like people, obviously, they're not Germans. They come from, they're refugees. They're
Yeah.
immigrants, and they have like their brain is completely. I don't know. It's they're humble. They have like brain and heart. They
Mm.
have connection, and
Yes.
I definitely want to make that tribe part of my life. Those people part of,
Yes.
and what we could do, because that's what I think that has to be shared, is like activities with the whole community, neighborhood, and I don't know, wherever you live in Berlin, then just like put posters on posts and just let people know that the tribe is cooking. Which tribe? I don't know, but it's a fucking tribe, and you gotta join, because if
Yeah.
you are human, you
And
come
that's
from
like
it.
the thing.
And you
That's the important thing. That everyone who is willing to just be part of it and who would like to learn could just spend time with us. I mean, it doesn't have to be reduced to a group identity thinking, because I'm not a fan of that, by the way, for different reasons. Because the same thing is being done with like veganism and stuff like that. So everything that has to do with like ideology and a group identity, I'm kind of skeptical about it, because there's just too many unintended or intended consequences that can emerge from that. But I like the idea of just opening up the possibility for people to spend time with us, because they would like spending time with us and doing the activities that we do.
Yeah, and they could have like, I will have my meat skewers, and they could have like their broccoli sticks on the fireplace. I don't care if they're
Oh,
vegetarian.
yes. Yes, they could have the broccoli sticks.
They could roast their granola and their seeds on the fireplace if that's what they want, but they're definitely
Yeah,
gonna see some blood, um, or some
yeah, they will.
myoglobin, yeah, pigment.
Robin.
I mean,
Well, yeah,
there's so much things. I'm really thrilled. I just
absolutely.
hope for the U.S. government not to fuck with world politics like too much, so we could do stuff actually. Why do I say
That's like
U.S.
the
government?
thing.
Because I mean we're in this shit because of the U.S. guidelines,
Mm,
and so I really expect the worst from the bankers and from the government, because they are the ones that made us fall into this trap of
mm,
eating the way we eat, and just falling for this dumb way of life of seeking.
exactly.
People are so like promiscuous nowadays, and I also have a problem myself at times with promiscuity, which is not always sexual. It has to do with like, to be promiscuous has to be like to do with anxiety. Like you don't have to search anything, you nothing, you are really just like really a child of God, and you've come here to enjoy time. You don't have to search for, you don't have to prove anyone nothing, like really. And it's this drive, it's that we have to reach, to grow and grow and grow and grow, that doesn't lead us anywhere actually. So it's and that has to do
Mm,
with nutritional deficiencies and with artificial life.
absolutely.
And I see people just, and obviously it translates also into all kinds of distortions in their behavior and sexual behavior, and people don't acknowledge, and people that are hearing this, but like people like we are really fucked up regarding our
Yes, as a
our
society.
sexual energy management. Like, I'm not saying
Mm,
that, I'm not talking about I don't know, like pedophilic monsters. I'm talking about you and me that don't treat sex as sacred as it should be, that don't regard sexual energy as what it is, and that just keep wasting this precious fountain of creativity. Because when you feel fertile, and when you feel sexy, and when you feel full of sexual energy, actually you feel more creative, and you feel that you can actually talk to people So we go back to the beginning. What do we have to do? We gotta talk to people. What does it take? It takes a lot of hormones, a lot of self confidence. But you
Yes.
know it's not easy for
And
people because
nutritional adequacy. It takes nutritional adequacy.
it takes nutritional adequacy. Bro, it has been such a pleasure talking to you and reconnecting and
Awesome.
just reaffirming the fact that I will see you soon and I will do.
Yeah, that's super cool. I'm very stoked about it. Enjoy your time.
Let's do an earth oven once we get to Berlin, and then we can invite some people and start doing the drive over there. I congratulate you, my friend, for your coherence and your clarity of mind. So you could teach me
100%.
lots of stuff.
I'm trying my very best. It's not an easy journey, but not easy in a very positive sense because that's, I'm kind of looking for a difficult way of going about life. That's why I'm killing myself in every workout because it's not easy.
Well, your best is enough. Keep giving your best, bro.
Yes, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Enjoy your time in Colombia.
Thank you. Well, I'm here till Wednesday next week, and then I'll be there in Hamburg, and I'll see you in April, live from
Yes.
Berlin.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Have a
We'll
good,
definitely do it.
have a good competition. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll be keeping you posted about the competition.
Stay strong.
Peace out.
Ciao.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.